Yeah.
Yeah, we could run it.
Oh.
Wow. Well, we have.
Yeah.
2 hours. And yes, and it is nice.
Right, okay, yeah, thanks, Peter.
Yeah.
Three? Yeah. No, we both have. Yeah, it's like. It had this thing plotting out the. From what that is.
Like a more bougie, wine.
It's just extra.
Yeah.
I never knew like this.
Yeah, I see, that's right hand side.
Somewhere.
Yeah. And then right next to it. Yeah. He's got a food truck. In the old round table pizza. Yeah. 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 I was like, Not fun. Yeah, but I mean. Not for you. You're right. Yeah. Even the secretary. I would like 300,000. Well, I was worried about. I remember the very big college. I'm out of the home.
Loved your hat this morning, Caleb.
Say again.
I loved your hat this morning.
Hey.
I was at the elementary school, but I can still see it.
So. I know that.
Well, we just talking about the little beanie.
Yeah, stripes.
Oh, okay, so I didn't have a fun house. Oh. Okay, the parents are all jealous, but some. BSN's out there.
You should see his closet in the dog.
Well, we don't need this, no.
Yeah, every jack. He wears.
Hey Renee, we talk about anything to talk over
The other
here?
day for snow, with these big it's like snow boots, snow bibs, jacket. Mittens, and that's what's that.
But you have to get to see the snowman.
Hold on.
This isn't about me, all right? I appreciate the compliment, Jennifer. Anyways, except for some people, these take it the next step, make others feel less than.
Oh, I've been writing records.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that, and. I'm not like, you gotta speak to God. I'm a good, probably best friend.
I just remember. I remember missing that.
Well, what are you?
Yeah.
To go eat. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry. I mean,
I mean, I'm like. Wait, where? My dad's from, LA slash San Diego. But, my three creative projects. Mostly a mom. Cable. That's like my only heritage, I know that is going true.
yeah.
So I'm gonna say. Where is
We just speak below, so we like. Box Rock, Maine, near Box Rock, that's where the ones. They wait to the around there. All right, we're gonna go ahead and call to order. School board work session. I'll wait for everybody to have a chance to finish their bite. And then we'll let everybody I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, let's take a moment and do some introductions. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, John, you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. Jennifer was my first year school board member.
Rusty Rex is my third year.
John Lap, Stephen Hammond,
Jim Chris Bennett.
Whitney Bond, Special Education Director.
Deborah Stoneberg, elementary principal.
Caleb Solomon, middle school assistant principal.
Richard Gardner, Canadian High School.
Renee Lopez, sophomore, yeah.
Jessica Hanson, I'm an eighth grader.
Caroline Carlson, I'm in seventh.
Alexander Ramos, I'm a senior.
And my sister is seventh grader.
Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. The board does this with awesome. Hope you enjoyed the food and we'll make this a quick and easy night for it. Hope you'll enjoy it.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, students, for being here. My name is Kristen Miles, and I am from the Oregon School Boards Association, which is a group, membership association of all the school boards in Oregon. And I've been working with the board for a little while to come up with a draft equity lens. And what we're going to do, the purpose of tonight is to try and get student voice in that so they can adopt that. And so we're going to work with you in groups to get the student perspective in that. So they can put the final draft. The first thing that I wanted to do is have the board actually review the process with you and tell you, so I'm calling on the board to actually help the students understand what we've done so far and where we are in the process. So I will just open it up to the board to tell our students what we've done so far.
Well, this is the third meeting we've had so far for third work session specifically regarding developing an equity lens for the school district to use to apply whenever we make decisions, big ones or small ones. We started off by learning about our student body, what makes up our student body, talked about the challenges that face our student body. And we talked about what we feel are the most important, the key aspects of education for students. So obviously, we looked at it from our perspective. We finally have some students here tonight to talk to us about their perspective of what's most important about education at our school district. So I think that's really what the next step is to really finally get some input from students. So like I said, we're really happy that you guys are here tonight.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody want to add about that? Anybody else? Anybody want to talk about what an equity lens is? And I would include students in that. If you have experience with an equity lens, or anybody want to talk about what an equity lens is and what it does. The board's been working on that for a while. But any perspective on that? I'm going to hand out the draft of what we've got so far. But any thoughts about what that does? What it is? Anybody? Yeah.
I would assume equity lens is kind of like focusing where your assets go.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What are the kinds of things that might do for you? So if you're focusing where your assets go, which is absolutely part of that, what are the kinds of ways that you might focus? What would that lens help you do?
Scholarships.
Scholarships? Sure.
Going to their school.
Mhm. Looking at how you're spending your resources. I'm gonna give you the draft of what the board has come up with, and I know it's up to everybody. Carrying out you very well. And give you a moment to look at this. This is a draft. And tonight, everybody's job is to help us make it better. Yeah. Look at this again, refamiliarize ourselves with it for those of us who have done the work. Students get to familiarize themselves with it. And then what we're gonna do, well, I'll give you a minute to read it and I'll stop. I don't want to put students on the spot. I'm gonna have you work on this. But I want you to start thinking about what your thoughts on this are. Because we're gonna ask you some sort of specific questions. As we work in group, we're gonna ask the groups questions. But what we're gonna ask you to do is lend your perspective to what, and your experience to what is happening in the district, what your experience is right now. As students, you get to experience every day, the result of decisions that are made and what you would hope that the kind of decision making, these kinds of questions might help the board and others make decisions that are more equitable, that help you focus, that help the district focus those resources. So that multiple perspectives can be heard and all voices are at the table, the kinds of questions here. Let me ask you before we talk about what we're gonna do with this, does anybody in the room, but particularly those of you that haven't read this before, have any questions about what you just read? Yeah.
What's the equity lens in general?
What is an equity lens in general? Yeah, does the board wanna help students understand that? Anybody, or admin, anybody wanna help students understand what an equity lens is in general?
I think for me, the two that seem to fit the bill the best is number 4 and number 5. It's really easy and common when making any life decision, but decisions for the district to say, this is going to make X so much better, and it probably will. However, in the process of making X better, what happened to Y? And we don't, just as a person, like, we want to see the positive, we want to see how we're making it better, but we also need to take a step back and say, but what are we taking away from if we're talking about money? Or who can't participate, who is missing out on something because we do this? That's how I have made sense in my mind. Thank you.
I'll add. So part of my job is putting together a budget for funding of programs and staff for the school district. And I present that to the budget committee and the school board and finally approves the budget. Oftentimes, every year when we put together this budget, we always have competing priorities or competing programs or things that people want to see happen. This is an example of something that we can apply those competing priorities to help us make a decision on what gets budgeted and what doesn't.
I had a question, because on this, it has like a really big, like, how did this decision, or like, is this like this decision we're making, or like? Because like on the paper, it's like, who does this decision affect, so are we talking about that decision? A little confused on the paper.
Like what kinds of, like, what are we talking about when we say this decision?
Yeah.
Board, you wanna help answer what that might mean?
The idea the goal ultimately is to have a place for when we make pretty much any kind of decision, any kind of change, whether it's a small decision that's right at the moment during the day at the school, and how to handle a particular problem, or to address a concern, or big things like how to spend money. So it's any kind of decision that people are encountering and that are coming across, and it's not just the folks we see here. It's, well, eventually we want teachers to be able to apply this when they're making decisions in just their day-to-day mission of educating students. So that's the ultimate goal, is to have the district pointing in the same direction, from Mr. Chris's role all the way down to the teachers and then to the students as well, is to apply this when we're making decisions on educating students at our school district. So any decision really.
Let's, hopefully, this has been happening, but not in a formalized process. So we want to ensure that these considerations have been made when a decision is made. And really to talk about it and have a little bit more of a formal process and these questions helps ensure that happens, because we want, all of the decisions made to be equitable and fair to everyone, and to the extent that they can be. So this is also something that's come down from the state of Oregon. They want all the school districts to have a formal process. So we're following through with that. I think we're a little bit ahead of the curve for our size district for when we're required to have that, but it's a good exercise for us to do. And we really value your input. It's fantastic to see you here and willing to take a look at this. If you see something that doesn't make sense to you, please ask about it. Like has been said, this is a draft. This isn't the final. If we need to change one of these questions around or add something to this or take something away, later on here, we're going to get to that, but we value your input.
Great questions. Any other questions as you look at this? Thank you for asking questions. The clearer we can be, the better this goes. So what our goal is tonight is to come up with something, again, with your input, with student voice in this, that the board can take and get ready to adopt as a final thing that they can use, that the districts can use in order to make decisions, and put these questions on top of those decisions. So that when folks are making decisions, they can say, what data are we going to use to inform this decision? Who does this decision affect positively? Who does this decision affect negatively? Those kinds of questions. Again, this isn't final. But what I'm going to ask you to do, see if I can get this to stand up without falling, is I'm going to put you into a couple of groups. And I'm going to ask you to answer 3 questions. I'm going to explain what these mean. What we're going to do is have 2 groups, one with 3 students, one with 2 students. We're going to have 2 board members in each group, 2 administrators, and then Jim, you'll join the group that has 2 students. So we're in the same size group. We're going to answer, what is the student experience with respect to these questions? So this is where you get to weigh in. And what I mean by that is you're going to read these questions and talk about, where do you think these things are right now? Where do you, when you experience decisions that are being made at the classroom level, school level, where do you think voice comes in? Like, where do you think that the questions are being asked? Who does this impact positively? Who does this impact negatively? Are there unintended consequences of decisions that are being made in your experience? If there are things in here that don't resonate with you, that's important for us to know as well. But the first question is, what is your experience? The second question is, what refinements need to be made? So this is where the groups are going to get together and all of you are going to say, how do we make this better? So how would you change things? What would you add? What would you take away? Are there little things? Are there big things? This is where we really want your input in that. And then when you get to a draft, or when you get to, you know, where you've made some changes, if you make changes, then students, we're gonna ask you also, what would be your top 3 priorities in that? Not to say that we're gonna eliminate anything on this list, but it's important to know, like, what do students feel is the most important pieces of this? So let's say you've got a draft and let's say you've still got 7 pieces on this. What do you think are the top 3 most important elements? And so we're gonna have you answer those questions as well. And then we'll get back together as a big group and have each group report out what they thought on all 3 of these questions. Questions on that process? That sound doable? So I think this probably involves getting up, maybe moving tables around. That'll give you a chance to like throw your dishes away and everything too. So let's do, if you don't mind me just doing groups, let's do 3 here, 2 here. Let's see, you 2 can go with 3 students down here. You 2 can go with the 2 students here. Jim, you'll go with the 2 students here. You 2 can go with the 3 students there, and you 2 can go with the 2 students there. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's get up and you can organize yourselves however you would like. Yeah, I would say. Let's organize ourselves around our students. Yeah.
Yeah. We're pretty sure. Oh, you.
And I'm gonna check in on your progress in about 10 minutes. Doesn't mean you have to be done. I'm just gonna check in on you. All right.
What is the student experience with respect to the class? Now, what is the student? I don't know. Sort of thinking about the decision to all of the key numbers and things that change. What is your experience with making some that affected the decision?
We received this.
Yeah, and then approaching the class, so one of the class. So go ahead. Go ahead. Over John's theory, and that's fast, it's algebra or high, and eventually, but this is. I usually do that, in every class, keep it this bill, you're keen for it, I think what should be help with. It seemed to, it was very English would be, and encourage the best decisions, shop, those kind of classes. Access. It's the purchase. Sure. Construction. And the platform system that was on since years. And like, so making decisions that are landed with first change, you want to have. Student body that this would have a body that's unfortunate that make are the things you ever thought about with the so it's this sort of time would be able to access or other students would be able to access. Transportation. How members of the community.
Hands-on skills where, outside of line, and yes, it like
That is already.
go to, I want to sit down for about 45 minutes.
And then really process.
1 minute.
Each.
And yes, that keeps us focused. And I really like that.
Sticky notes.
Contract, which
Sticky
is
notes.
what I'm gonna do.
Seeing them.
But some kids feel like option should be for education. Oh, there's no clear section. It should be. Well, it's always like, almost like every day, on a walk around the inside. We had, so we had lunch in our classrooms. And then we had 30 meal, right? Like just outside, and then there's pirates. More outside. The athletes, get outside, and we have this thing called Ridley. So it's slow, I would say meditation, but it was a really intentional movements that help with brain stimulation. We did maybe sounds, plants, woodwork, and we have a really like that, but it was a lot of everything, and like, that was a lot. From a daily decision as to who gets to live campus for lunch, all the way up to when are we gonna read it in football? What math curriculum are we gonna use? Everything we talked about. Like not even reading about who's going in the whole is doing much. Cause like sometimes when you know, when like.
Oh,
Football.
so I don't
I don't know what about. So like, I feel like that.
And she got really bad.
I could say, because like I couldn't go in like and I get also why you guys like close it off, and you can like go in there and mess around, and like it's also for the teachers, like.
And I think really happy about it. So then
Like I feel like for some kids, like they wanna go inside there just to like do their work, or sometimes it's like cold outside and they go into like hang out, so.
So decision making around that.
Take a look at one of the decisions you talked about, what would you like to see take place in those decisions? One last decision would be on. One minute, based on that, you said miss, and that it's a positive indicator.
and see if you can send it.
I would say that just. So one of the things that we like. Develop programs that is what's. Students that put us to action. Together. It's comfortable appreciation of the stress.
Yes.
Versus something that's all one on one. It's really helpful. Fix. So. Yes. The programs.
You like the questions here, the school were not.
Those bugs. All of us should work. Or the weather. Samples help that on street. If you are.
Questions for the state if you need to ask, find out, to do what you think is the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that it was like, it was like a week process, like understanding you have to do like students, but it's just like a really big thing. It's a lot of like trips, it's very something. So like a lot of times, like they feel like they have hired. So, like, is that, like, saying, also, you check the cameras, you would have been getting your stuff, you should add the cameras, Instagram, raise it, or something like that. Basically, that's way, like, really, like, she didn't want to school. So, that's why. But thank you.
I think one thing we should add that everybody to general is how you address a situation if a student complains about the decision that was made. And how do we make sure that they're being when they decide about they should have a decision or like I know there are a lot of people that are that anything because they think it's like they can even like as a student, I mean, because I found a good play for so that you know, maybe kind of less after it makes the person have to do jobs, but in some ways, you know, see how it first. It's not about I know I live, I work, but it's I was had something something that was just like individually, like if one kid had one missing assignment, they couldn't go. And I feel like that was, but a lot of people would complain about that.
Doing number 6, right?
And also with the neighbors, that some people are complaining as well. There's no getting it, it's gonna find a way to place, right? Yeah, so some of our who said it, but someone said like, if I did all my work and like somebody else only did half of the work, say like these and these, how would that be safe? Also,
What refinements do you think we made to this one? So after this, something to back, what do you think? Do you think it's anything should be reworded? Is it kid friendly?
getting free charges, saying that.
Represents the is there any?
But nothing happens after.
Any more direct in James, helping us to change that.
Yes.
So, in so it's a kind of a statute. Caleb and I got together and said, we're getting a lot of.
I know, there's like nothing, nothing's happening.
Football fields that are in- we just closed it down. Would that be-
I don't, yeah, it's like, it's the fact that, yeah, and targeting it, or like saying a lot of people are kind of run off with playing football, but like some people like walk track, play volleyball, play soccer.
So what question is the one that would help? This is me making others, so Caleb, I mean, that was what would be, either for the key questions for you, maybe that's so that. There's consistency, so that, situation, which I like, consistency, safety.
Student privacy, the right to know.
It's even set rules.
With decision making, so that's an example. If not, it's just the shares.
They'll be reading some other things. Or should we then reading this? Your reference.
The board question.
I get ideas about how, what do you think stakeholders are providing these data? So that, some of these words make themselves, get like dizzy and all, like, but this decision that Caleb and I are gonna make. But if we were gonna make a decision like that, some stakeholders, who should we that? The stakeholder is a person that has more at stake than anybody else. So who will stakeholder be in the decision?
Don't, like, I think a lot of the times the kids that are going to spend because I just only brag about. And like, I don't know how to work around that, because we are intelligence. Yeah, but people out there, so do they think about that, if they come down and do something that's their point of view there, but, I think it also has to be, as much as you guys push respect, say that, nothing's not about, anybody pushing respect anymore, yeah, respect is so pushed to school, it's pushed as a schools out there. And it's constant, something like. I can't.
Are there any other super important stakeholders that we should be getting involved in?
I'm gonna do a quick check. Where is everybody? Where's this? You're number 2. Okay, are you making changes? Are you looking at, are you just,
We're just kind of like.
you just going through it? Okay. Great. Where's this?
You know, I think the biggest stakeholder.
Where are you number 2? Wanted a little bit. You're getting into. Okay, all right, this is one, nobody's talked about 3 yet, okay, I just want to see here at 2.
And it's just.
Mhm.
For the motion. We're gonna just- Say, is this happening or is this bad?
Still right there.
Well, I'm saying like the bumps, especially.
No, totally here. I'm just trying to think of something just like you create. Yes.
Check in again with that.
But is there anything in here that we should be like a better question, better,
It's like,
any of those 7 questions on, we can do that. If you want us.
Yeah. And that's a good perspective, because like myself.
How would we change
This space. It's actually.
Is it, you don't like, well, where you leave it?
So how?
That you are. Yeah.
So we talk about people that was on there, about their
Well,
Can you go to your student council, whatever your student government
So the last question
is there?
we've seen,
Um,
how do you prioritize?
and then the people.
Three, important stuff. The big really question, to bring most important elements of that,
And this is a.
and circle the number, and kind of think.
Is that?
It was prioritizing the next one, questions, and this, and this. Even if we're just saying, oh, this is an area. Oh. Probably be a three.
last week, you were important question. And last week was just.
I did, I just left it up there. No comparison.
And lots of.
No.
Let's make sure we're in question 2.
So let's go. Solution be about.
I thought it was obligated, it's supposed to be for private got in that face, and I do anything, and then.
I'll go back number 2.
Number 2, okay, I don't do for you. And it's like, I don't, it's kind of like,
Number 3.
and then, can't push it off.
What about number 4?
We do the interview. I understand now the life thing, it's like almost like, Yeah, there's so much authority over the big thing.
Number 6.
Let's make sure we're at least at number 2 at this point.
What about number 7? Do you identify? So I based on this strong about that, this strong moving both. Or it's change this group in order to like the certain more people who have us like the violation about the problems. Bringing that, we 6, you are going to go over. You understand? Definitely pretty long, the other, so the 5 people in the structure go that so in the path, because either like you have not looked at something by the show. You should report to say, I'm just saying, you'll just leave it. How do you? But how do you follow that? So you have. Yeah. Skill that.
The what?
Oh, right. Or is it make? You got this.
I think it was gonna push towards like the full spectrum. Effectively like she feels like she's, if I were over to the spectrum with a child, then not be like. I just won't say. You're still in this hour, I could probably have a spectrum. So she's like, he's knocked down something, it's a little bit consistent, like outlook on him. The second one is something. They put in the second battle, and that's a track.
No, I do that. It's gonna cost me $2,000 a year. No. It's every year. Still do it, we got to lay that money in the year, but I think we'll do underage for it, so sometimes you do catch the money. So we're able to just work on the fees, so I think the bags is awesome. Also, man, the other, we have. Whatever the power that you access about this, should be my. The matter gets something available.
I think a lot of students come to the rush offline.
Key thing that I learned about sustainability.
We're like,
I could do this. But I.
sometimes even they, have a lot of students want to support that, because we talk to them, so like I have a lot of picture.
I was with I came in and it was like drop the student off and the student, she was like, work. And it's so hard to sustain. Yeah, it was like, oh, that goes not anymore. Like, I go, we got it down. That's like, Sean, just drop it. That went all the as well. So, like, you know, we're very close to the last, but how students are. And all areas of it. You say, I don't see that's in like that. What you say that it's like pretty much. It's more. High school, there's clicks here, clicks here. We all know. Right, it's that.
What do you get for your time? I have to be 5 and 7.
Wow.
That would be, but it's really about the other hand, why. Say.
Yeah, that's the go-to. My whole leadership.
Right. You need they do it, they need one to help in the process. The 5, what are the items? It's they're scared, what?
We'll take about 5 more minutes if we need it.
What things will like.
Well, I had that problem
We
with.
started, like, say, probably, exactly, we tried to make, exactly, say it in one of my children. There's a lot of negative feedback, and I didn't see that, I thought it was really funny, because I don't think. But that was not this response. But really needs to the whole scope. And then for 7, how the outcome of this decision needs to be, also based off the Atlantis. Started with more than that, but they're asking, going if it's gonna be. I don't think that like, there's other students before, like, only to think, because it's so bad. I feel like it's too, like, we don't see that, like, just that, like, the track thing, and like, I don't the track thing, like, asking other students that go is the track, and asking students that don't, like, what issues. It's not even just an ending, it's because I'm a lower short. Yeah. It's really. And then for 4, like, this is an effect negative, not much you can do about, if you give a kid a Caroline said, like, someone would like to go out, like, now that it's sunny and stuff, it's like, walk around on the track, play soccer, football, and things like, just go to hang out with friends there. So I feel like there's comments about go hang out with friends, like, go talk to your friends.
Yeah, it's like, when I
And for like,
I've got.
6,
And.
asking other people about like that decision and getting the EAs and like do that, like, what do you guys think about like taking it away?
Talk about like, over. Like, people on board.
It's really bad.
Or like,
5%.
along with the.
Occasionally. You guys feel there is no one that some people don't get as much.
Let's go Brandon.
The ability to help people to go, which is one which we're playing with myself.
It's just crazy.
Something
Today,
is.
you can do that.
So this is like, you know, you take a look at it, and it's like, you know, this, what's that?
It's just you do it. Like, it's not. Like, it works. There's no result before it's. They don't show up, it's just it's the cloud, so that's considered the same as. So then, it's just like backlash. There's not, there's no,
Say it's not. Students, but there's a state.
there's not a lot of.
Let's take about 1 more minute, wrap up our conversation.
I mean, I kind of have to, at like Clarissa, and Clarissa, she helped my brother a lot, and he was in high school. And he helped me a lot, and also, Miss Purple, she's super funny, she's always kind, like, she's always just like a really good person to talk to about, like, some people on that school. She's always there, like, you know.
That's one of those better foundations.
He knows me.
I want to see that.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Don't tell one legend.
Let's go ahead and wrap up. We'll come back together. We'll stay in our groups. For now, did everybody get time to get through most of the sections, all of them in some way? Whether you found your own path or whether you hit them in bullet points, yeah. I heard good conversations. I want. Okay, I'm gonna ask each group to go through these. I did not have you pick a reporter or a reporter on purpose, because I didn't want to put any particular person on the spot. I wanted you all to feel like you were equal participants, that nobody had to just be writing and nobody had to just be focused on reporting. And I know that some time was spent on this question. What I'm gonna ask you to do is not reflect exactly what you said as part of this, as part of your conversation. But I'm gonna ask each group and students especially, because we don't, you know, I don't necessarily have the adults speaking for you. But maybe just an aha moment, or an adult can share this as well. What was an aha moment when you were talking about what's the student experience? Not, what I'm not asking you to do is share a particular experience. What I'm asking you to share is something that you realized as you were having this conversation. So something, so like for me to model this, something that I realized is that, okay, well, I'll use a real life experience. I'm a board member in my home district, the district in which I live. Something happened at the beginning of the year. I realized that there was a lot more fighting at school than I knew about. As a result of something that happened in my district. So when you look at the equity lens and you went through your conversation, what was something that you realized through your conversation that you didn't know?
I'd probably say that, the student board, like, you don't really understand like how much they have to go through.
Mm.
You know, they get all the like things said to them, like all this stuff, like, it really just like being here really just showed me like how, like you guys are trying to improve, within high school to build a better foundation for us.
Mm. That's great, thank you, that's a great example, thank you for that.
Second that.
You second that?
Yeah.
What is something over here that you realized as you were talking through this question?
This, I would say, is how students communicate with each other and get along.
Mm. Mhm. In what way? Is that positively or something that needs an improvement, or you just sort of realize the ways in which that?
It's, the ways that our board members or our kids, our school teachers, you know, when they make a big decision about like changing something, some people really like backlash.
Mm.
You know, just kind of express their feelings rather than making it more difficult for teachers.
Thank you. Anything else anybody wants to offer?
That there's a lot happening in high school that I didn't realize was happening in high school.
Yeah?
But at the same time, I find it pretty easy to relate to, because like they're a micro community of what we all deal with as adults. It's the same issues, just in the high school community.
Mhm.
And so the issues they're bringing up aren't foreign things to me. I just didn't realize that teenagers are dealing with the same thing walking into school as I do walking into work. Same battles.
I saw a couple administrators receiving some input from stakeholders that they might not have heard before, been aware of. And I saw that they were very engaged and interested in receiving that input and working to have a conversation with students, the benefits of that. And yeah, also see some great students learn that.
I think I also like, I have a really big appreciation for Rizgard being here, because, you know, first year being here. But, you know, we're like, it's nice that he's trying to do what the other person, like, other principals wasn't really like so open for, so I think it's like a big thing.
Yeah.
And trying to like appreciate the student voice.
Thank you.
I remember wasn't in the high school, but Mr. Jerome had just walked around with his hands in his pocket and said that. I don't think I interacted with that guy once.
We have appreciation for folks that are here and engagement by everybody who's in this room, which is great. All right, now I'm gonna ask you what sort of tactical improvements you made to the lens. So I'm gonna start with group one. Did you come up as a group with refinements that you wanted to make to the lens? So we're all gonna listen to this. I'm gonna take some notes. What did you come up with for suggested refinements? If any. Go ahead. Everybody's looking at each other.
I guess.
Anybody want to report?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on the question, kind of going through different scenarios at the school, and I think some of them were, so I don't know if there's any refinements. We didn't find the question that should be on it. I think we had, I don't think we found any absolute refinements on it, and I think when we get to questions, we have more information on just things that without important aspects of it, maybe we'll struggle on which we thought was more important. So I have that information about what we think is important in this to us.
Sure,
in-
okay,
In a regular.
great, okay. We will get to that, great, okay, so no big edits, right, group one, okay. Group two, do you have edits? Things that you,
Nothing that we specifically talked about. I think from listening to the full groups, it sounds like student voice came out a lot. We need to be able to provide equity or I guess raise student voices to an equal level. And so I'm wondering about how do we either adjust, it's like question two is what data will be used to inform the decision? How can we use that or better state that? Does this decision need student voice? And what does student voice perhaps look like? How do we define that? Making a decision?
Because we folded that like into number 6, it's kind of explained to them when it says, I don't think we were really clear on what stakeholder was, but when I got to, well, you're a stakeholder. So but yeah, that was explicitly said in one of the lenses was, is this a decision that students need to implement that need to be made? That might be more explicit.
what if we said something like in number 6, how have members of the community, or putting students first, how have students, members of the community, and or other stakeholders been involved in this decision-making process? Does that sound right for inclusion of students?
Yeah.
In number 6? See you later. So no big edit. So as far as editing the tool itself, it seems like, oh, did you have anything else for number 2 that you wanted to add? I feel like maybe there was discussion around or maybe some overall discussion, which I'll ask you for in the end. So it seems like as far as number 2, as far as the tool itself, that felt like it was going in the right direction as far as the questions themselves. Maybe there is some discussion about the application or something like that, which we'll get to, and I want to hit number 3 now. What was your discussion around number 3 and prioritizing?
Well, we did it. We did it. What do you guys think? But how did our prioritization?
Yeah.
I would say we didn't really focus on who it affects positively. I guess we kind of moved around who it affected negatively, because everyone's affected positively if they try to get affected positively. But there's always decisions that will affect something and positively. So it's kind of like something, if you get affected positively, oh, right, good on you, So I guess I would say we didn't really discuss much about the positives.
When we did the straw vote, which they thought was like prioritized like the number 1, number 2, the one with the most votes was number 6, which was about just the end of the And that had 6 of us that said that was one of the top 3. The one that was in second place was, who does it affect negatively? So I think somebody had a profound quote.
I mean, not gonna go, they say it's 6 out of sore thumb, yeah. You're really gonna pay attention on that, like, what we're doing is like trying to get, this is all like trying to get positive. Look at how it affects everyone positively, but how to find that, we have to look at how it affects people negatively.
So that was fun to talk about that. And our third one was number 7. Sustainability, decisions. And I think one of the students said, like, you don't just start something and then quit halfway through. If you're gonna have something or do something, then do it right, see it through. And then, of course, we talk about, resources for me are things like finances and manpower. Those were 2 big resources that I put into place. But that was another thing that they came up. That was a good thing for kids to say. I think it's that don't just do it halfway, right? Finish it.
Yeah.
They do it right.
Great, thank you. 3 for this group. What did you prioritize?
Only if you want to.
You gotta pick 4.
So we didn't follow the direction.
There's always someone.
3 and 4 we thought were pretty similar. Who does it affect positively and negatively? And then what are the unintended consequences? For 5. And then number 6, and especially, I said a lot in our discussion around student voice. And so ideally, how are we including student voice on the front end? Down the line, how do we think about also including it after decisions are made, after evaluate the impact of the decisions.
And the fact that most of our student body is dependent on an adult of some sort to bring them here and have them here on time, take them to extracurriculars and such that the family stakeholders to be included in the decision because they're gonna be somewhat responsible.
Any discussion, I think I heard some discussion in this group and I was wandering around a little bit on the application of this or other ways that this discussion took you that weren't necessarily relegated to the questions, which is great. Because if your discussion took you in another way, let's reflect that to the big group as well. Anything that you discussed that you feel is important to share with the big group? As far as a big theme or a bigger discussion.
I heard over and over again here, lack of consequences. Decisions are made, people break rules and nothing happens. All right?
Yeah, well, there was this one incident where, my friend got a fight, and then I think I got a major referral from the party, and we had the same consequence. It was, we both had a major referral, and then one because for much attention. So it was like, kind of like, how did those two things like correlate? Time to being late, needed to a fight, and we have the same thing.
Do you think that something like the application of an equity lens would help with that kind of decision making?
That's like,
The unintended consequences of deciding that retardees and having drugs on campus are equal. Do a major referral. And I don't think I know a single kid who's gotten a minor referral this year. All of them are major, so at this point, there's just one referral to referral. So what was the point of minor and major referrals in the first place?
Thank you. Any other big reflections or themes that you want to share out?
We kind of closed our group just by asking, whether it's underrepresented groups, do you have somebody in school that you feel safe that you can go to? And, I think everybody here could identify an adult that is trusted adult that they can talk to. And then, one of the things that were brought up was, sometimes people are fearful to speak up, especially if it's personal person type of thing, because either they're snitch or there could be that retaliation or some blowback from going to an adult and saying, this is happening to me by him, then, we're gonna go to him, and then he's gonna know it to him. And so I think that there's that, so a little bit about building that trust, and having that open door, being able to come in and sit down and talk. And so, like I said, sometimes, you say something and we have to act, we just have to, it's not acceptable. Sometimes you can come in and say, I'm just venting to you, Mr. Rosgaard, I don't want you to fix anything, I just want you to hear what's going on. So just, that kind of environment. So I'm happy to hear that everybody had a trusted adult, somebody that they could go to. But I think the work that I need to do, Kate needs to do, and Kyle needs to do is to be able to also give that safety, so it's a safe place to come and, and really talk through how we're gonna handle it in front of them. These are the steps I'm going to take. Are you comfortable with that? So they feel comfortable to tell us about things that are person on person, or that's, the harassment or the bullying, things like that. They feel safe. So that kind of came out.
I guess I have something to add. It's revolving around all of what we've been talking about. It's the mental health questions. How do they feel mentally? Because when we talk about consequences, there's always some type of reaction to that sort of, that sort of thing. And when it comes along to referrals, it's kind of like, what is going through a student's head? What are they going through that make them, want to act on that? Or, like, receive those consequences, like being late, what can the student do to get there early? Or what can the student do to not get more trouble or consequences? Or does it make up the student what they think? How they do it?
Thank you. Or do you feel like, so we've added the student piece, we've talked with, again, thank you students for being part of this conversation. You talk with students about how can we refine this, how do students experience this, how might they want to experience this, what could be improved. We've added a piece about students in number 6. Board, how do you feel about moving forward with a draft that has a minor refinement, but with maybe a different lens in your head about how this might be applied moving forward with the lens itself? How do you feel about moving forward with the draft, adding students and getting closer to something that you can adopt? Is there more input that you feel like you would need? Or you don't want to adopt? Okay, that piece, so it's my job to get you back a clean copy that you can use, that you can take to a future meeting and adopt it in whatever process you want to use to do that. I think this was, it doesn't matter what I think, but hopefully, at least in general, the experience of having student voice is probably one of the most valuable things that that can be brought into any big initiative that a board takes, because this is what board members do. Every decision that a board makes impacts students, and sometimes can impact students the next day. And so thank you, students, for being here. I don't know, are students going to stick around for the next piece?
Actually, did think of.
Yes.
Thing that came up when we were first started, you talked about what we've done, the work we've done so far, and we at one point, the previous meeting talked about barriers to education. I don't think we've specifically asked these students, since we have them here, if they could identify if they feel there's any barriers to their education or their classmates' education they've experienced. That we should know about.
Because it's just the way it goes. Our school is so small that we all have our little groups, but it's by yourself or with a larger group. There's always a social hierarchy, no matter where you go. There's always those small people, kids, causing those problems, be the loudest, try to be the coolest, I guess, and like those who wanna be more academically focused. There's always some type of diversity and different social groups, I guess I would say, no matter where you go. Like, when I first came to the school, it wasn't very many, there wasn't much about diversity. I was one of the few students who came to that with somebody, I didn't really feel left out, but I didn't feel like I was alone. Like, I didn't have someone like Renee, another Hispanic, and I guess people were like, oh, you speak Spanish. I walked into, kind of think of it as a teacher that speak Spanish there, and somebody, this one, yeah, first thing that they jumped to conclusions to was, is there some type of, language barrier? Like my freshman year, I was the smartest kid, and I thought it was some type of language barrier, but it turned out to be quite the opposite. I was quite lazy. But I made that turn around, and I got good grades now. So I guess it's just kind of like trying to students feel welcome, not like left out, like I would still say like
Yeah, I can probably honestly agree with that because I've been using kindergarten.
Yeah.
Kindergarten. And I think there's probably like, man, there's probably been like 3, 4 different colored people, maybe even like 2 or 3 at most, that I've really seen like be staying here. Like a lot of the other colored people, they like couldn't deal with it because they're really just so bad. So I think the like compensate was like almost like you felt lonely. And it's like you could get with people, like they just look at you a different way than they look at like another kid, which is kind of like odd. So it's kind of like hard to like. Well, I've like made friends, but when I was younger, it was like really hard to talk to people. So the brown guy, like really different that much. I kind of agree with Alex.
And like, with me, a couple of people like kind of are mean to me because I'm Mexican and because I like, and they'll start saying stuff to me and like asking me questions and like, that kind of make me feel uncomfortable, but they don't think that it's like in an uncomfortable way.
Yeah, it's really normalized, saying things like dog emotion, I mean, it's like, because I've gone here all my life, you just laugh it off, because you know these people, and you're growing up with them, so, it's normal, but like, especially because I think there's only like 3 kids in my grade that are colored, and,
There's so, a lot of my time I get my work done, I kind of like take class around school sometimes. And I'll end up in the hallway, and there's like the stuff that I hear, it's like, it's crazy. Like I heard like girls that are running down the hallway, you're like, oh, that's why she's fat and ugly. And I'm like, dang cow, it's like there's such a big difference between like insults with middle school and high school, because there's so much more mouthy in middle school, and in high school, it's like, they're more like, they understand like how to hate you, like racism and like different jokes, but it's just like, it's really great.
yeah, and like, it's so crazy, because, you've grown up with all these people, and now they're calling each other the N-word, it's like, you're white, you have no reason to say that, but what is the point of saying that, if there's not even black people around to hear it? Which sounds really stupid when I say that loud, but I'm just saying, like, if you're, like, you are a white person surrounded by white people, so there's no reason to say it. The only reason you're saying it is because you think it's funny. Like, that's so stupid.
Like he called me a being straight in my face my first day at it, wasn't him. And where I came from over there in Springfield, we kind of had to act on that, but since I was new, I didn't like risk my education here, so I just think some sort of like awareness to racism and like different people, you know, different ethnicities, kind of like social awareness. And like have teachers like listen rather than just kind of like, oh yeah, I heard, but not really act on it.
I kind of want to that, like, there's people that have came up to me and called me names and like called me the N-word, and they'll like be white, and I've just kind of been like, oh, and sometimes I'll like laugh it off, but sometimes I'll like be like, hey, you know, there's like, and they'll say they have the N-word pass, but there's not really like, that's not specific, that's just something that people have made up. But I mean, it's not really right for people to give each other the N-word pass when it's not, it's not like a right thing to say. And like, especially to me, like people would just call me like the boomer and like call me stupid Mexican for no reason. Like I'll just be walking in the hallways and they'll be like, there's this one specific kid, I don't want to call names, but he'll just like straight to my face, even if there's other people around or there's teachers, he'll just call me the N-word or call me stupid Mexican. And I feel like that's kind of like, it's kind of uncomfortable because like I've known him for a while now and he's a good kid and everything, but I feel like it's people he's hanging out with that's kind of making him do that. And it's like also for someone people that they're hanging out with do that and they change the format like how they act so that it can try to come out as cool basically. So
Yeah, like with that, it's like, I play football and it's like the biggest thing is like you can't bag grade, you can't get any like fights or anything like that, you can get like suspended if you're not football. And so for sometimes like people like say stuff, and it's like, it's got to the point where like they've said so much, they've got like creative, they say like, I've been called like a border hopper, a burrito bandit, a chimichanga chomper, I've been called the salsa, like savior, chimichanga crusader, like it's got to the point where they came up with all like so many like names. It's like, I can't really do anything, so it's gonna affect my education and my sports, so it's like, oh, like, what am I really supposed to do about it?
Like, it's just crazy because like, you know, you just have to, like, it's worse because like these people are your friends, you know, you have to hang out with these people. And because you can't call them on saying the N because you're around all of them. Like I remember last year I was like, you know, I didn't really think that anybody would ever say anything, but then last year people started calling me stuff like, you know, like doggy muncher and like I got called a cheek. And it's like, it's crazy because like, you know, because you're friends with these people and like, it's not like you're gonna stop being friends with them because you called them that because then it's like, oh, you're being irrational. I didn't like, it's not that bad, you know? And like, if you stop being friends with those people, suddenly you have no friends because everybody's saying it.
Yeah, it's like, it's when you try to defend yourself, it's almost like, it's like, if I'll try to defend myself, but like, oh, you know, like all hasty and stuff like that, it's like they gang up on you for trying to defend yourself. And they're in the wrong, so then you're just like, oh, no, you're like, oh, yeah, you're a sissy liberal, or you're like, well, I'm not gonna say it, no, I'm saying, yeah, it's just, it's crazy. And it's like when you tell like higher ups, like teachers, it's almost like the brush of them all, like the brush of the don't affect. And you're like, oh, like, yeah, it's like, I can understand it's like it's hard for you guys to like embrace how it is like. It's like bullying, it's like been around for so long, it's just like, I get it, but there has to be something that we can do to like cut that down. Cause like, let's think about it, like the little kids from elementary, I don't think they wanna go to high school, where they get called all these names, they get bullied and stuff like that. Like, I understand it's gonna be hard, but I think it's like, we have to do it.
I guess all I can say is, our previous principal did try to address that. He tried making a program to, you know, normalize different groups of people, different ethnicities. I do agree with that. I don't know where that program went. There was this African American agent that went there to kind of like address it, and I don't know if he quit or if he left, but it was nice to have around because the racism kind of stopped. You know, it stopped being like pushed around a lot. And it kind of just died down, but after he left, and Garth left, it kind of like came back. Yeah, so I guess it's just the awareness of the consequences, you know, everyone has to have some sort of consequences besides just having a little piece of paper, you don't know, got in trouble for it.
Yeah, and it was like, I remember that, cause they called me and they were like, oh yeah, like you to help with better. And like kind of like support you guys more, and I think the thing that they did with that is they put the pictures of like Mexican or Spanish idols or like legends on windows.
And it didn't do it.
Yeah,
Like, it's just like, you know, somebody would want that person, like the person on the window, and just go in the end. Like, it's like, oh,
that was kind of like crazy, like, cause he was like so keen on, well, yeah, we want to make it more comfortable for you guys. And it's like you put great pieces of paper of people that I've never heard of on a window. And then expect that to be like, oh yeah, we can heritage month. Voila.
when we're taught to accept like other ethnic cultures and like, so that we're all just people, we're listening, but we're not really here, we're not digesting it, we're not seeing how, well, some people are not seeing how that can really affect people. They're not hearing, they're listening.
A lot that goes into it also is the sissy liberal thing, it's how they're raised, like, you know, hearing the ESLA and getting those looks in the hallways, like, that look like they're saying the ESLA to you is like crazy, just because, you know, you're a girl with short curly hair, you're not, you know, it's not, I don't have pin straight blonde hair, and I don't want to straighten my hair, and it's like, it's really hard to embrace different people when your parents are blasting that everybody should be the same. And I know politics is a complicated thing, but, a lot of kids, I know that a lot of kids are being projected that saying the N-word is okay because their parents are just saying it. Like, I remember one of my friends, somebody said the N-word, I looked at them and I was, I looked at them, I was like, dude, that's crazy. And they're like, oh, no, my parents say it. And it's like, why are your parents saying it, you know? So it's also like the environment that you grow up in.
It's like, cause there's so many generations of like kids who've all went with their grandpa with you and dad with you, it's like, it's just so many generations, like what they expect you how to be, like how they were, and how they want to keep the school how it was. If that makes sense.
Thank you all for your thoughts and your words, especially here at the end when you really shared. I think the question about barriers really opened up a really good dialogue, and you all shared your experience, which just shows how much work there still is to do, and it's really important to hear from you. I think we're gonna talk about the portrait of a graduate next. I think everybody can probably move back to their seats. I don't know if students are staying for this piece or if they're eager to go.
This would be a great place. How do we do this? Can we take like a 5-minute break?
Absolutely.
And students, if you want to stick when you can, this next piece, we're going to talk about the work that we're going to be going into this next year. That really will have some impact on what we talked about tonight. It's just called the portrait of a graduate. It's elements that go into students. But you're free to go.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Next board meeting, our
Welcome to the John.
Here comes Caroline. But get your back, man. Take some bread. Take some bread. Maybe somehow related to the company refugees. Why you ask? I might know someone that or maybe both.
Okay.
It's a nice song.
Probably do.
Huh?
I said you probably do.
I don't remember.
Okay, go, see ya.
Yeah. You take a little bit. You ever went home?
Yeah, I do agree.
Huh? I know it. You go here. Yeah. Hey, Ronnie, where you going? I guess there's next part of the thing. You seen it this year? Yeah.
Jesse. How many? Oh, sorry.
I don't know.
Copy small one? Okay. This guy. Oh my.
Well, I didn't know that.
Oh, so then.
Second.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Yeah, so all that to be said. And, that. For sure.
You know what I'm doing? I have practice.
Oh, how did it go?
Be careful of the courts.
Yeah.
My phone rang.
She's resting.
Eleanor, are you resting at state this weekend?
Yeah,
Let your mom mention that. Okay, thanks.
I'm gonna get first actually.
Obviously.
Obviously. Host it.
Used to.
Yeah.
So, what is that also?
It's almost exactly. It's not like all the other day. Feel everything go along.
Get it together.
Friday, guys. It's Friday. All right, so we want to end tonight, to talk about, look at some district-wide competitive development coming this next week. And, there's a group, Cosgrave and Swanson, so they're Cosgrave and Michelle Swanson. The company is out of, I believe, Northern California, but this is something that's being provided through Lane ESD, so just to our service, provider, it's
I say it's not a cost to us, and it's that it does come through the Lane ESD, but that's part of the funds that we made at Lane ESD. And it is, it's around this concept of, building a portrait of a graduate look like, which is some of the things that we've talked about as far as kind of defining what our outlook is, what things that why we're here to do it, what does that mean in North Star for us? So just a quick little, and this is a slideshow that we actually stole. We actually met with them by Zoom Tuesday. So around the idea of graduate, how can support our work? So essentially 3 questions for school districts. What do we want students to know and be able to do? Sort of district standards and courses. How will we know they can do it? Our assessment, great. We've had a lot of conversation again around assessments. How will we get their traditional curriculum? These things are necessary, no longer sufficient. I would say this is a conversation we talk about not being necessary. For me, anyway, over the last 25, going on 3 decades now, these conversations around the elements that go into a individual as they work through school are not new, and the concept is not new. We've always grappled with it, and we really haven't done out of it. In concrete, or it's been sustainable, but now we think about a graduate portrait, or the portrait of a graduate. What do we want students to be able to do? There's an addition to that, as far as what does it look like, as far as elements of a graduate, what is the demonstrations for them, and how they be mastered, show proficiency, and those things align to learning tasks. So some examples of the districts we work. So that's the piece on the right there. There are typically 5 to 10 elements. They specify cognitive, personal, and interpersonal competencies, create priority goals for teaching and learning. So the school district on the right had elements of think, adapt, communicate, contribute, produce, and collaborate. Another example, Kathleen Smith School. Think, they then went a little bit further as far as defining what it means to think. So critically ask a question, evidence, same thing for learning, working, communicating, collaborating. Closer to home, this is Triangle Lake Charter School. There's different outlook. The top box is basically it's written in a way so crowd thinkers can. They say think critically, solve problems, think flexibly, think collaboratively, creatively. Pro communications can. They demonstrate, right, speak effectively, show empathy and understanding, connect across differences. Pro leaders can take initiative, show resilience, be accountable, and produce quality work. So you can start to see some of this is where you know, the idea of showing empathy and understanding. There's a lot of work that was brought up tonight about just our student culture in general, as far as empathy and understanding, connect across differences. But this work can have an impact on. So I created, how can I help us? We've already got a mission statement. A lot of times, you don't always see this with districts, but a lot of times the mission statement, really you just have one. Often districts don't go much further than that, some of them do. When you start getting into the value statements, there's some things that can help guide us in creating versus of the graduate or portrait. And then our strategic goals, those are the items that we've worked on with the integrated guidance, so that doesn't exist already. So why we exist, where we're going, what we care about, how we behave, how we'll get there, current focus and targets. So those are all built around our district system strategy and focus, the graduate portrait, what all our students will be able to do. Most importantly on this is it kind of gives us our North Star, creates a shared destination. District initiatives can often feel like this, as you know, especially as the state, not necessarily always changing things, but it's sometimes changing things, changing whether we provide reports, changing initiatives from the state level, making standards can have us going in different directions. hopefully the graduate portrait can be aligned. This can also help, I think I've talked recently just about symmetry of information. Oftentimes when you're organizing a district, even a small district, everyone can come oftentimes with either a different work experience, a different education experience, a different cultural experience. And so out of that, the construct of information and the way that it's shaped is different. They see things out through a different lens. So being able to provide symmetry of the information so that we're on the same page, this can be a really important, in particular for building administration, to work with our teachers, and so we have that guiding point of what we're wanting to accomplish. Another example here, as far as district initiatives, as you can see, they start to align the work on. So we've got our continuous improvement plan and our integrated guidance, those are one the same. The idea of then being able to have our mission statement and a portrait of graduate in the rules and then provide signature of our information. Just a quick slide about how to use the graduate portrait to transform teaching, learning, and assessment back towards students. Even recently, and I'll have a short little video here, we talked a little bit about assessment, how to get our students involved in the learning process. If you think about locus of control, for students, how do we get them internally involved to see that education is important and actually take ownership over their education versus education feeling like it's something that's being done to them. That's what we motivation or we took that look at the last day with choosing extrinsic rewards. But how can we lead to an assessment system so that you create your portrait, come up with your definitions, create rubrics around what it looks like for each of the elements of it, what a successful student would look like, or how they would demonstrate mastery and proficiency. Develop learning tasks, so the teaching level out of those. Showcase. So if the element was taking initiative itself, being self-directed, a mastery student at 3, they can frequently work effectively on their own and in groups, so they can find opportunities to help and demonstrate vulnerability, encourage. So it takes the idea of what we're doing in the classroom really to a whole new level and starts to shift the ownership and provide further details, I think, for the students on how they can take ownership on their. I mentioned they straight into, I think, whether college, university, or out of the workforce. These are great examples of people that we want to hire in the workforce. Development process. So it starts with this is just an example, but it starts with a task force with the planning, developing out for stakeholder focus groups, create and revise a draft of stakeholder input, so it comes back to your production task force, for example, and finally have a copy for the school board to approve. Sample of like a student-led.
Passage presentations. Students present before members of their community. Teachers prepare students for success by providing organizers and rubrics and dedicating school time for preparing. Students share portfolios of work as evidence, and the presentations reflect both academic and personal growth.
Does kind of like, you say trash on Puerto Ricans, my motive is like proving the world wrong. I can be Puerto Rican, I can be a young woman and still go off to college, be a business manager or anything like that and do what I want to do, because I want to.
The passage presentations share these universal qualities. Passages take on unique characteristics in every school. At Mapleton Expeditionary School of the Arts, known as MESA, passage presentations are held at the end of grades 8, 10, and 12. Students must pass passages to move on. The passage presentation panel includes at least one teacher and one community member. Students speak to character, academic challenges, and growth. And as an art school, student work is emphasized in the passage presentations.
My name is Simona Carrizo, and I just got done doing my 12th grade passage portfolio, and I almost passed. I actually have really high expectations for myself in art. So I know myself pretty well as a learner, the fact that I know that I actually need to see things in order to be able to grasp the concept of what we're learning. I've learned this through myself as well as through MESA, considering it's an expeditionary school of learning through the arts. For my nuclear reflection, I chose my pop art intensive based off of Andy Warhol's log prints that he did of them. Passages are a good idea for kids to do because I feel like when you can actually present your work like that, then you're really ready to go out into the world to be able to present yourself. This is my senior expedition for horror makeup. And this is my friend Sanya, who let me know to have been zombie. I knew I wasn't going to pass right away because of the edits I needed to make to my senior expedition. So when you're almost there, it's like fighting on, right? So that's it. And I feel like since I didn't pass the first time, I can really just push myself out much harder to get them done. I schedule.
When I watch the full video, I can share that, so that you know. So there's anybody that looked at we equity lens, the student voice that gave it tonight, which great power in doing something like a graduate portrait, or whatever you call it. There's different names that we can use for this well, but being able to describe what are the elements of a student beyond academic elements, characteristics essentially, and then how do we empower students to be able to be the ones that guide that, present that, it's like the parent teacher conference. So they are actively active members of and that can also be gets out to a very tonight where students often feel that they are powerless, don't have a voice, or perhaps don't have an environment in which they feel like they can provide barriers to that because of other social dynamics. So that's some of the work that we are planning for this next year. It's really just started in the sense that we just went through this group on Tuesday, presenting it to you guys tonight, possibly an opportunity to look at next year's work session, you know, engage for students that develop this. Questions, thoughts? That's good, like it. Good direction, feels like it's the next step in work that we're doing.
Super interesting to me. I don't know how to articulate it, but one of the things not as a school board member, but as a community member and a business guy, the thing that is always marveled at is the variety of people that come, that want to go to work. And I almost never care what they know, almost never. I want to know how they, because that's what ultimately matters, as you all know better than anybody. And I think that's what that's getting at. It feels like that's what that's driving at, is the kid that comes out, understands more than just the stuff. They know how to learn, and they know how to adapt, because that's what they're going to have to do the rest of their life. They don't have to know very many things. They have to know how to know things. Yeah, that just feels like that's a step in the right direction to me. And I will say my own kids who went here and didn't seem like they were that curriculum savvy. And then I watched them do life. And they were miraculously savvy. Well, how did that? And I think it's because they've got that. Not what, it's how. They got that.
So this is just wait time, when fellow educators understand. Wait time is all about. You can bring hands, get ready.
I like that it gets away from like just straight up, ABC, type stuff, but, and does prepare them for, like beyond here. I think it does go like our mission statement, be, productive, going to the world, be productive. If you're starting off, especially like for students that would be doing this, starting in 8th grade, and then by the time they get to seniors, that seems like it'd be pretty powerful for me. So. Ready to know to learn more.
I was gonna ask, just a couple of things. Are there any reflections? Students are gone, they've joined us, they spoke a lot, particularly at the end, which is great. They felt comfortable sort of opening up their piece at the end. I want to just ask if there are any reflections anybody else had or wanted to say anything before we close about that experience with students, getting their voice, getting them to weigh in on not only the equity lens, but how they spoke into the space at the end of the meeting or at the end of their part. Anything anybody just wanted to say before we close out or add?
I would love to know if you all were surprised by that.
I would say no, but there's been things that have come through, like we had a letter of resignation last school year from an employee that I shared with you that was really a lot of. Just straight. So there's a lot of racism with it. There's I think we've talked recently about motivation of students, intrinsic, extrinsic motivation, about focus of control, about how to empower students to feel like they're in control of education. The idea of some of the barriers that they brought up tonight, I'm hearing things and I can see things around a student who may not speak English proficiently or English may be their second language that is seen as a detriment. It's really kind of a question I used to travel around the world, speaking multiple languages is normal and natural. So rather than looking at that as a detriment, we can't speak multiple languages as a positive factor within student life. Some of that's just a cultural switch for people because again, got them to constructs. So not particularly new. And it's really similar to, I think, even coming from a larger school district where walking in and we see Pleasant Hill, and it is such a nice, pleasant place to be. That the kids are in class, and there are a lot of kids out in the hallway that you approach a kid that you're normally pretty respectful in that manner. But on a scalable fashion, we're still dealing with so many of the issues that we are dealing with in some of our districts in terms of student voice and how do you raise student voice within an environment to be able to identify what the barriers that are existing, give them actually a space to thrive. In order to positive community and society.
No, I mean, it's not, because I know that, I deal with that from time to time, where kids think they're being funny. And it's, call it, usually the big term called microaggressions. They'll say things to people and it hurts the other people, but they're paralyzed on what to do about it. And sometimes they come, sometimes they don't, and when they do, it's a good opportunity. The number one, not to forget about it. Number two, call parents out to see if there's a court at home to talk to the kids about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And I think some of those, like, they talk about very, that when you're walking down the hallway and it's a bad house, if you go through either the middle school or high school, there's a lot of activities, a lot of things, and it's sometimes we catch it, sometimes we don't, but when we catch it, we deal with it. Catch it, we do grab a kid, bring them in, kind of see what their background is, what's the reason they're talking like that. But the biggest thing is calling parents, and in my very few times I had to call parents this year, it seems like I get 100% support from parents. Haven't had anybody justify or make an excuse for it. And usually we'll talk to them when we get someone, we'll take care of that. Follow up the next day if we can, but yeah, I sort of, for the Springfield High School, First High School, for your Pleasant High School, you can scale it down, it's the same. It's the same kind of things, kids are watching TV and getting normal for what they see on TV and just acting on the way they think is funny, cool, or so nothing surprises me. It's just something that we work on all the time. I did take notes, probably a staff conversation around that if you're in the hallway, either let me, what's their next, let's have a conversation around how to make them more advocates for the students rather than maybe they're afraid to deal with it. They kind of hear it, they're back in their classrooms. But just trying to figure out how to do some just conversations on the staff where if you hear it or see it, don't turn your head to it. Get there, right there. We're the grown-ups, we're the professionals. People have to call it.
In here, about the referral, like the referral happened, but nothing happened that way. I would say that the change that has happened, and Caleb might be able to help with the stands that live day to day, but I feel like we've gone from a environment, especially at the middle and high school, where rules about referrals just weren't written. And so the idea was this is not we needed to know or that we were supposed to know as administrators that these things were happening. And so working with staff to get them to actually write referrals is kind of that next step on the ladder. And the next piece is what is restorative practice look like? What is the communication between the administrator and the parent and the student? What does it look like in the shift for a student to take responsibility? Because I was hearing that they feel like students come back and they almost want the idea that they were sent out, which for me tells me that they haven't actually made this process or this shift, brain shift neurologically of actually fully taking responsibility and understanding that. And that's going to be important as far as what their actions mean for their student environment. And again, it's kind of focus. That's where we're at.
I think there's work to be done too around, well, again, with the staff around what the difference between a minor and a major referral is. I think they just pull a major referral, right? Everything has a major referral. And like I talked to Caleb, when I get a teacher who gives me a major referral, there's nothing in the previous action box, I hand it back to them. It's until you do something like that, until you contact the parents, until you do something, and sometimes they're not moving. So I'll take the major, this is the major regional life. So there's something that it's just a go-to, because the major referral is administrative action. So there's no action on the teacher part. It's just you draw a major, and then there's a consequence at the bottom of the administrator, delves out. And so a lot of the time is, I look for the teachers who they have behavior in class and they observe behavior. They contact the parents and kind of explain what's going on. Happens again, then they can send it in, and then we can deal with it that way. And the thing, there's other things that trump everything, a big pen or a fight, that's not going to be a top 2. So, there's a consequence for that. The consequence. So, but it's urban legend. I think sometimes kids will say that, oh, that's going to be, but it does. Something happens.
There's also a process right now going on of reestablishing the teacher as the person of, I hate to say power and control, because power and control often takes power away from students and can't the focus of control, but getting the teacher in the place of a respected individual within the school, which I feel like it's kind of stripped over the years, last few years. And reinforcing with staff that as an adult through engagement, they really do have a lot of power in being able to change the life of a student. Middle school and high school students can be very aloof. They happen to want adults around. They really do desire having structure of an adult. At the elementary school, you cannot really see in the sense that as an adult, trust an adult, especially if I go out to the playground and stand next to a student, that can have a huge impact as far as making the student feel and seen as they belong. So really, how we provide respect back to the teachers.
Hey, maybe you heard you guys say that it's just, it's a smaller version of what occurs in the bigger schools, but I think what we have in the smaller schools, you've got students who feel potentially even more alone than they would in a bigger school. So maybe the same type of behavior, but they have a little bit more impact because they don't see anybody else that looks like them or that its experiences, that has this experience that they do. So it made it harder. So just I mean, yeah, you guys have talked about like next steps to go back into use this as like a kind of like a professional development type thing with the teachers. What are you doing if you see this or hear this in the hallway or in the class? And then that's a step. I'm just curious if there's anything else that can be done. Obviously, it's not a quick fix, but it's something that we can do to time create a more inclusive environment at the school. It's like you didn't get to say it when we were talking, but it's when he's leaving, one of the students is saying, I'm worried about my sister's experience as she goes through middle school and high school. So what can we do between now and then?
And I'd say we have to keep in mind that there are some immediate things that are being done. Sometimes the perceptions aren't always accurate, and sometimes you can't keep what those things are as well as what I think the behavior goes when that happens. That's a large generalization. Thank you. It's just not always completely accurate, but it provides perhaps insight into an individual's school life where they don't feel safe. And so the missing is there. There's room for being able to, we started this last year with some of the student interviews, local groups. But really make a determination. I think we saw it tonight, huge step is that we do now have students who feel comfortable enough to come in and actually share with strangers. I'd say a year ago, there have been those things one-on-one. So there are those things that are happening. We take a look at our integrated guidance and the plan around that, and being able to look explicitly at our local group students to see that they have access to our programs, and knowing that our counselor is getting out and talking to all the classes that we're working on, scheduling and forecasting for next year. There's a plan to talk to every single student in class. Have relationships. This is just another one of those, I guess, I think still in the lab as we continue. Culture, the graduates, example, so they are, and then it's often difficult to take that quick measurement and actually see. I think especially in the structure of tonight, where we're actually asking for feedback. And we did, I think the kids did a great job as well, because they pointed out the positive things that they've seen already as well.
Well, and I like that they, like in our group, all the kids were able to immediately identify somebody, an adult at school that they respect and trust. And two of the students were in multiple. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Anything else?
Okay. Next meeting, March 18th. 7 p.m. right here. Community Center. Thanks, everybody.